Yeah, then I welcome the final normal presentation besides the hackathon, Ramy on stage. He will be presenting a little bit forward-looking elements regarding AI and data spaces, and I hope not just data spaces, but I think it's more general, also digital ecosystems. Looking forward to the final presentation. Please introduce yourself as well.
Thank you so much. I also promise I won't take 13 minutes. Okay, first, it works. Thank you, everyone. Really happy to have such an opportunity also to speak and present a bit what we're doing. So my name is Ramy, and I'm leading the team at ThinkIt. We're basically a German-based team, but with members from across all over the world. And we've entered the data space journey quite early as well. Trying to take what the academic work has put out there and then put it into practice, operationalize it, and then try to make it work. A bit on our background, actually, we are currently the official mobility data space connector provider and also offering the connector as a service out there. We've been very active also with the Gaia-X, especially the architecture committee. And we really like open source as a team. So you'll find us on GitHub, one of the top committers out there for the EDC, so the Eclipse data space component. What we do and what we try to offer is empower and enable companies and organizations out there to get into sovereign data exchange. So specifically looking into the 3 key areas of interoperability, trust, and identity. We are strong with the Eclipse data space components, but also looking heavily into the trust frameworks out there, Gaia-X being one of them. And also looking into the distributed identity and self-sovereign identities out there, so OpenID, DCP, etc. We want to make data space technology easier probably, and remove or make the entry barrier a bit easier for organizations out there. And we do a lot of open source SDKs that we provide, especially around the connector itself. What I want to speak about today is more on the sovereign AI and this common vision that we saw today and yesterday as well, which is, okay, how can we actually now leverage data and data spaces and also for the sake of AI while enabling sovereignty and keeping sovereignty, because we really think that data collaboration and the AI performance should not be mutually exclusive. And that's what I want to share today. This matters actually because with the rise of AI now, a human being is barely able to keep up today. Each day there's new things on the AI realm. But then really, as soon as we start exchanging and we start talking about AI, the real problems underneath really appear, which is most data today are still in silos. And that's basically where we want to turn those challenges into opportunities in a way. And the idea that the data spaces today with their current state, linked or empowered by the trust frameworks that exist out there, show a path to actually still have powerful AI while not taking away the sovereignty and the control out of it. Maybe I will dive deeper into the topic, but then zooming out first, the big picture out there is data spaces are ecosystems of different participants trying to exchange data together. Each ecosystem has its own properties, requirements, etc. But then what we observe again and again is the layers underneath are more or less the same. So the trust framework and then the connector, maybe scratch the EDC, it can be any other connector as well. And then on top of that, we start building layer over layer, looking into logging, observability, identity, cataloging, etc. And this is where we see the Gaia-X as trust framework being an enabler. So it's like it really enables data exchange infrastructure, so data spaces, by providing trust verifiability specifically. And we took this as a starting point, and then we set out to prove now really like on a technical level, how can we build this infrastructure that would allow you to, in a secure way now, really fine-tune an LLM. So like our proof of concept is around how can I, as a consumer, take data from data spaces and then use it to fine-tune my LLM. We're doing this in iterations. Iteration 0 for us was really about technically linking now the pieces together. We took one of our EDC connectors, and then we're using LangFuse for data sets management and Ansloth for the fine-tuning part of the LLM. And we went about it in a layered approach. Our main design motivation is to take the following 3 perspectives, so more on the provider side of things. I have data sets that can qualify to be used for fine-tuning. We also are looking in an isolation as well into the infrastructure itself for the sovereignty of the data exchange. And then on the consumer side, like also looking into, as soon as I get data, I want to fine-tune my model. Now, maybe I will talk a bit on those 3 layers specifically. For the data set management, it starts with the data out there. So in our proof of concept, we looked into the Hugging Face, and then we tried to download like data sets available out there. And then we also are, like, it is also very important in this POC for us to see to what extent I can annotate my data and I can provide metadata about it. And then this is more or less the management of the data sets as a provider. And then comes the data sovereignty or the data exchange infrastructure, mostly with the connector. The role there is to establish a contract-based data exchange. Very crucial, again, is the metadata aspect and the usage policies. So as a provider, I want to define policies on how my data will be used, and I want to make sure it gets actually enforced. And lastly, on the consumer side, we're looking into now fine-tuning. As soon as I get the data, how does my journey look like, starting from the representation, like converting data formats, and also evaluating whether the fine-tuning is actually improving the outcome of the model or not. Maybe briefly on the key components for the POC, it's mostly open source, and again, the EDC connector, the LangFuse for the data set management, and the Ansloth for now the fine-tuning. Maybe a bit on like the choice here. For the EDC connector, it's basically the interoperability aspect and the data space protocol as one enabler. And then on the LangFuse, we specifically are interested into the data sets management capacities of such a tool. And on the fine-tuning side, we try to pick a tool that also allows a wide range of use cases, specifically low rank, basically like adaptation, to allow even resource constraint fine-tuning as well. Maybe like this is a bit the infrastructure now again for the POC iteration 0, we call it, where we try to simulate 2 organizations out there. We issue the credentials, and then each one have their own connectors, and then we're like spinning up the LangFuse on the provider side and the Ansloth on the consumer side. I'll walk you a bit over the steps. They are pretty much the data space steps overall, where the consumer first, the provider, sorry, first provides this data, and we went for an HTTP-based flow exchange. First, I would provide as an API my JSON data set. We register this JSON dataset or this API as an asset into the connector. We then create the policies, so the contract offer with the policies I want to enforce. And then we have the data transfer that is initiated by the consumer in an HTTP pool fashion. So as you can see, the first policy evaluation point is when requesting the catalog, and the second evaluation point happens during the transfer itself. As soon as the data is on the consumer side, we then trigger our fine-tuning pipelines and then try to evaluate the output. Yeah, what we set to prove and what we wanted to confirm in a way for this first iterations are those foundations in unlocking such a use case. Again, the metadata enrichment was very crucial for us to start the POC because it will lay the ground now for allowing the consumers on the other side when they discover data to know more about the quality of the data, what it includes, etc. The contract-based exchange as well is foundational for the sovereignty. And this is where we see the Gaia-X plugin in the next steps, and I'll talk a bit about that. The distributed identity and verifiable credential was also a big requirement that through now the connector and the EDC, we're able to leverage that. And then we also wanted to make sure that the compatibility now when the data moves from the provider to the consumer is also something that we can do. So that as well was a green check from us. And in our work, we believe that the next steps are really now what's more important. We identified for our iterations 3 main big questions we want to answer, because iteration 0 answered few questions, but it opened up multiple others. And mostly what we see next is allowing actually large data sets to be transferred, because that's how AI use cases usually happen. For that, the plan for us is to leverage the connector data plane capacity, and then also introduce chunk-based transfer along the process. And then a second big point, and we try to look into the quality assessment in data, because what we observed in the different data spaces is as soon as you start exchanging, the big next problem is, okay, like how good the quality is that I'm getting. And this is a very important part where we try to explore with other teams, such as like the Acatech team, looking into the enhanced data profile, the EDP work, and we want to leverage that and now try to introduce it also within the AI space, like looking into what are the metrics that are relevant now when it comes to evaluating the quality of the data I want to use for fine-tuning. Then most also very important is the policy enforcement side of things. And again, I started with the Gaia-X as an enabler, and this is where the picture makes itself more clear, because we want to see how can we leverage the policy engine of the connector in addition to the services offered by the Gaia-X digital clearinghouse, the verifiable credentials, and then make sure that we are able to really enforce more complex policies. Like in our first iteration, it was more a policy that allows the consumer to use the data for 20 days only, but as you can say, as you can see, that would cover few of the use cases. That's what I wanted to present, really. At the end, we see the big picture all like being in a setup where we can support partners and organizations out there to actually unlock those use cases and in a larger scale, looking into multiple sectors, multiple industries, types of data, and then we try to bridge the gap now between providers and consumers. Thank you so much for the time, and happy to take questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ramy. I like the increasingly usage of the Gaia-X Trust Framework and other components just as a springboard, as a stepping stone to do something different of direct value to the business, not indirect. Are there any questions from the audience? I don't see any raised hands. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.